afternoon, everybody. When Theo asked me to come here to talk to you today about social television, I had a bit of a challenge because I had to come up with a title, and I always find getting the title the most difficult part of coming up with any sort of presentation. So the title today is Why Buy an Ad When You Can Own the Whole Channel? The title will be significant later on. We'll get back to that. Basically, my name is Philippe Brodeur, and the reason I say it'll become, I'll try and get to it a little bit later on is because my background is in television. I've worked in television for 20 years or 25 years, and I'm accustomed to telling stories. And telling good stories is still what television's all about. In fact, it's what social's all about. In fact, it is what will always be about television and video going forward. So just keep that in mind as we go through this presentation today. I will try and tell you a story. Stay with me. It probably won't be very linear. I tend to jump around a bit, but I will try and come to a conclusion at some point in time. One of the other things that I want to talk to you about today is about being interactive. So please help me out here. Who brought their TV with them today? Anybody? Not a single person brought them. Oh, we got one up there. One person brought their TV with them today. That's good. It's extraordinary when I ask that question and then I show this slide and say, do you know that 70 to 85% of data going to a mobile phone will be video by 2017? Do you know that 50%, 50+% today is video of the data going to a phone is video? So when you think about a television, what we have to do is we have to deconstruct that. We have to think, what actually is a television? We used to call it an idiot box, didn't we? It's an idiot box because what it is it's a screen. And as a screen, it can show pictures in a linear form. So any screen can therefore be a television. In fact, that is a television up there. So from now on, I'd like everyone to think of their phone not as necessarily being a phone, but why not call it a television? Why can't it actually be a television? Let's talk about Aertv for a second. But rather than talk about it, I thought I'd show you a little video.
Alrighty then.
Hello, Ireland!
What a beautiful fucking day.
Hey!
Basically,
What the fuck
is
Aertv?
What is this?
it's free.
Online.
Television.
What?
And I don't know how that got out.
Fantastic stuff!
I must have missed that.
It's for free. Stop. I'm serious.
And
You can
watch it live. Television.
Online. So that's Aertv. So does everybody here know Aertv? Does everybody use it? Come on, you're students. It's for free. Use Aertv, please. So when we talk about social television, I thought, okay, what's the strategy? What's my strategy today? So my strategy today is to come here to talk to a bunch of students and say, okay, let's be interactive. Why don't you take your phones out now and let's tweet something or post something to your Facebook accounts. Come on, phones out, please. And let's tweet or post something to your Facebook account about the video that you've just seen. And therefore, once you've done that, we've all taken part in a social TV experiment. Well done. And after that, I thought, okay, maybe I'm finished now. Maybe it doesn't have to be a 25-minute presentation. Maybe I can go home after about 5. But as with any good strategy, as Mike Tyson says, everyone has a strategy until you get punched in the face. And getting punched in the face is very similar, I think, to going online and Googling something. Because you go online and you Google something and you end up with, 6 million answers or something crazy like that, or 7 billion answers. And you're thinking, how could there possibly be that many answers to what I'm looking for? So I plugged in social television, and this is what came up. The social television ecosystem. Social TV ecosystem. I mean, there are more brands up there than I have ever heard of in social television, and I'm supposed to work in the industry. I have no idea what half those companies do. What I can tell you, though, is that they're pretty much all new, and they're pretty much going after the television pie. I think it's really significant that this is formed like a pie. Do you know what the television pie is? The television pie is $400 billion a year, okay? $400 billion a year, which has been shared between a couple of companies, well, not a couple, a number of companies, over the past 50 to 70 years, and it's been a very cozy ecosystem. And now all these guys want a piece of that pie. So, social TV, what are the numbers? Well, if you go and talk to Motorola, they're the ones who did this study, they'll say that social conversations about TV, this is the number of consumers indicating that they allow social media conversations, either passively or actively, about TV. So while they're watching TV, basically, they also have their phone on, or they have their phone with them. And they might be following what's going on TV. And what they're saying here is that about 43% of people who watch TV are actually looking at a social network of some sort. That's a lot. But are they actually engaging? I couldn't find that figure on engagement, and that figure is very, very, we don't really know what it is. Google's done a lot of work in this space. So they came out with this study a little over a year ago, and they say that we also multi-screen by using more than one device simultaneously, and they're specifically thinking about TV and the mobile phone. I mean, we know about Google TV, the first Google TV, and then there was a second wave of Google TV, and now there's a third wave, a third iteration, and there'll probably be a fourth and a fifth. They're very persistent. They want a piece of that pie, as do a lot of people want a piece of that pie. And so they came out with some of this study, and that makes sense to me. I mean, I watch TV, and I have my phone in my pocket. You probably do as well. I think that this slide is far more interesting. They talk about best screening. I really like best screening. So the idea of this is not necessarily looking at simultaneous screens, but looking at sequential screens. So you get up in the morning, what do? I flick on my phone and have a look at the news or whatever, turn my alarm off. But I'm definitely using my phone for something that early in the morning. The second thing I do is I go downstairs and I might listen to the radio. Okay, then I go to work and I get on a computer. That's my second screen of the day. Then I go home in the evening and I watch TV, or I might get on my iPad. So there's my 3-4 screens done in the day. And I think what's really interesting for advertisers, and that $400 billion pot, is really how do we follow people through the day? How do we get in front of them on one screen after the other? Why do you want to do it at the same time? Everyone talks about second screening as the most interesting part of it, of social TV. I think it's maybe the sequential screening. And then there was this one slide in their presentation which I thought was absolutely fascinating, because they talk about multi-screening research, and I looked at this and I thought, oh my goodness, the TV screen is about to be overtaken. TV is on its way out. Who's heard that about the death of TV? We hear this all the time. The death of TV. Oh my goodness, the death of TV. Well, there's a slide that nobody wants to show you. And this is it. This was one done by Needham's. Now, it's 2 years old, okay, but I still think it's relevant. I'm sure they've got a new one that shows it just being as relevant as it was 2 years ago. And essentially, what they're saying here is that if you look at that one, traditional live-only TV, this is the amount of hours that the Americans spend watching traditional live-only TV. Look at Netflix. It doesn't even rate. And everyone thinks everybody watches Netflix. Now, it's probably higher. What is it, twice as big as it was in 2011? 5 times as big? Even if it's 5 times as big, it still doesn't rate. It's amazing. Video on demand. Video on demand. In the UK, a study earlier this year showed that video on demand made up 4% of viewing. PVR, so recording, made up 6%. And that regular linear television still makes up 89 to 90% of all viewing in the UK. TV is not dead. Let's go back a bit. Let's go back to the 1990s. Live TV, some of you may remember it, some of you may not remember it. It was set up by Kelvin MacKenzie from The Sun, and Janet Street Porter from Channel 4. It was a really good idea, and the reason I've got Rusty Goff up here is because they went after an Oompa Loompa because they thought Oompa Loompas had good talkability, good word of mouth. So this is one of the things that they thought would really work on their television station.
Hello, yes, it's me, your bounces, wetman Rusty Goff. Yes, it is still cold because the cold, chilly winds are still with us. Up in the Midlands, though, it's clearer skies, but possibly showers, but still remaining cool. Up in Scotland, though, although there's a frost in Argyll, it's the best chance of sun, but there's still a bit of wind, and temperatures only getting to 16 degrees Celsius. With your bounces weather forecast, Rusty Goff, signing off.
Okay, he was known as the weather dwarf. And Kelvin MacKenzie said the reason they hired him was because it put a smile on his face every time he tried to tell the public what the weather was like in Scotland, because he could never reach it. And it was as simple as that. It was about creating a joke on TV that was event-driven every day, the way weather is event-driven every day, and making people smile and making people talk about it. It was about word of mouth. It was very simple. They knew back in the 1990s that events were really important for television. The problem with video on demand is it's rarely an event. The release date might be an event, but after that, it just sits there in the library, a really big library. So they could see that there was going to be pressure put on this model, the cost per thousand model. This is what the TV guys are terrified of. This is from Business Intelligence. It's newspaper advertising revenue, and that's the graph. That includes, by the way, digital. It's a really frightening graph. And a lot of the TV guys think that that's because of the cost per thousand model, and they don't want that to happen to television. So they're working really hard not to let that happen. TV is built on numbers, ratings, as is online. And I don't know if you noticed, but just last week, Nielsen, who are the arbiters of ratings for television, announced a tie-up with Twitter. So we now have the Nielsen Twitter ratings. And as you can see here, Twitter moves the ratings in all genres of television. Well, didn't we already know that? I think we did. And I think this is a really significant step forward because Nielsen are saying no longer are they just going to do their ratings the way they did traditionally. They're actually going to bring social media into their numbers. Not to be outdone, on the very day that Twitter announced that, Facebook said that they're coming up with their Facebook Nielsen ratings as well and doing a deal with Nielsen as well. And I love this title, In a Race with Twitter, Facebook fluffs its social TV numbers. So Facebook, Twitter, they're really going after television as well. They're very, very interested in that pie we talked about earlier. This all comes hot on the heels of earlier this year when ComScore had a nice little win. In the United States, these two little companies said that they were going to look at ComScore and not Nielsen, or both. I'm not really sure, it was a bit sort of gray. Look at both Nielsen and ComScore for their ratings, for their television ratings. Now, why is that significant? Because they control $32 billion of advertising every year. It's all about the money. And that's a big number. bring it back to Ireland then. So we decided a few years ago to launch Aertv. We're just 2 years old now. It is social TV. We have a mobile-first strategy, but we always had a different name for it. So what we did is, again, we went and we tried to deconstruct what it is that we're doing with Aertv. So we thought, okay, it's going to be live television, not video on demand. It's going to be in the cloud. That's what makes us really much different from other TV or network operators. We deliver from the cloud. And it's going to be linear. So it's live, it's in the cloud, it's linear. So it can't be broadcast. If it's not broadcast, then it must be overcast. And that's what we call it now. We call it overcast because it's over-the-top television, and that's the term that everybody uses for television that's delivered from the cloud and onto your multiple devices. The story behind Overcast TV, it's very simple. Once upon a time, technology changed, i.e. the internet came along, consumer behavior changed. That's only just happening just now. People are only just starting to watch on their tablets, starting to watch on their phones. And then business models changed. Unfortunately, we're stuck just before that business model changed. So we're struggling a little bit with the business part of it, but we know we'll get there. Like I said, we have a mobile strategy first, so you can watch everything you want on your mobile phone. We think Aertv is the future. We see others doing it. We see brands doing it. We know that 30 to 50% of our viewing audience, especially for live events, is mobile. So we did the Flight Fest a couple of weeks ago, and at Flight Fest we had over 100,000 people watching Aertv. 100,000 people. And no broadcaster wanted to broadcast that. I think that's quite extraordinary. We have 34 linear channels, so RTÉ, TV3, and all those channels. And we've created 5 new linear channels. And then we created this channel, the Gathering channel. This has been a great experiment. So the Gathering came to us last year about this time and said, look, can we do a channel? Not a YouTube channel. This is a linear channel. It's a proper TV channel, but it only exists on Aertv. And in that time, it's become our 4th most watched channel on Aertv, beating 3E and TG Cahir on our platform. And why is that? Probably because of that last line there. We can embed it on other websites, i.e. we can distribute it. We can get audiences not just at home, but abroad. Think of that. There are no rights issues with the content that we get from the Gathering, so we can have it play anywhere in the world. And all of a sudden, our market goes from being 4 million people to being the whole world. Just recently, a couple weeks ago, we launched this. This is the Sports Live section of our offering. We did over 300 live events last year, and we show every sport from hockey to basketball to badminton to tennis to cricket, all those sports that don't get on to broadcast television. There's an audience there for people to watch them. And that's all we're doing. We're just offering the platform. In fact, we were here last week with DCU and Templeogue. But social TV is much bigger than really what we're doing at Aertv. And I wanted to share with you a little twerking video that you may all be aware of. When Miley Cyrus, she's been in the papers, she's been everywhere, but I think this is a far more interesting development on the whole twerking story.
first time I saw it, viral video, 2 million views. It now has 8 million. The girl in this video was trying to make a sexy twerk video for her boyfriend.
Check out this twerker. Girl on fire.
Watch how a twerking girl literally sets herself on fire.
She catches on fire. That girl was on fire.
Now the internet is on fire.
Dangerous side effect of the fad known as twerking.
Apparently twerking, or just trying to do it, is getting downright dangerous.
So this is a major twerking fail.
Some are calling it the world's biggest twerking fail.
This could be the most disastrous attempt at twerking of all time.
This is an example of how not to twerk. This girl's foray into twerking ended in near disaster.
So that video was posted anonymously, the first bit by Jimmy Gimbel on YouTube, and it just went viral. But what's really interesting about it is not that it was on YouTube, it's that it made it onto TV. It's that it graduated to TV. And that's, to me, what social TV is all about. It's all about graduating from online onto the really big platform, which is ultimately television. So here's what I'm thinking, and just a few predictions going forward. The content makers and pipe owners have the greatest opportunity right now. It is a golden era for content makers, it really is. There's a lot of great TV out there, and people are watching it. Broadcasters in smaller markets will get taken out. There was a story just yesterday or the day before that Champions League might be bought up by Sky or BT or somebody in Ireland, and that we'll have to pay for it. It'll no longer be free. So there'll be big companies, the pipe owners or the satellite companies, who will be able to move into markets and buy up all the rights. There's lots of money to be made out of making niche content, quality niche content. Brand is back, and brands want their own channel. And what I mean by that is we don't really understand how brand and brand TV works yet, but it's coming. And there's going to be a lot of money to be made there. Sure, there's Audi TV and there's Manchester United TV, and there are a few channels out there. A lot of them aren't done very well just yet. But I think that we saw with the Gathering channel, we're only really just at the beginning, and it's a really exciting time for TV. I think second screen is an expensive distraction. Don't spend your time with it. You'll waste your money. And I think companies like Netflix and other intermediaries may very well go to zero. It's just a prediction. That's it for me. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time.